African companies looking to operate drones without appropriate licenses might be in for a surprise. New updates to the SAPS charge sheet system will make it much easier for police now to find them. Offenders will be liable to a 5,000 rand or up to 42,000 rand fine or face time in jail. The new charge codes will also end blockages that prevented the police from prosecuting illegal drone actions in the country. Let's unpack what this means, what's the impact of this decision by the police, with the president of the Commercial Unmanned Aircraft Association, that's Sean Race. Sean, good afternoon. Is this a completely a new development? Were you expecting it?
Good afternoon, Dan. Well, I mean, the regulations were passed in July 2015, and since then there's been this complexity in terms of enforcement, with the CAA having fairly limited enforcement capability only on licensed operators and licensed pilots, and then the rest of the group effectively being unpoliced. So there's been work that's been going on for the last sort of 18 months to work with SAPS to get the codes in place to effectively create an environment where a successful prosecution could take place. So it's not a total surprise. I think what's been quite surprising is the level of media activity that we've seen since the press release went through. And we're excited that the message is getting out there, because I think in some cases there's genuine lack of understanding of what the regulations are, and those people need to be educated. And in other cases there's blatant transgression, and those people really need to face the consequences.
Yeah, I guess there's excitement because drones are new technology, and in our country we were told by people when they started to use them that you could reach remote areas, even in distributing blood samples and taking much needed blood samples by the blood bank. I interviewed them a few months ago, and they're using drones to deliver blood supplies to remote areas. But I understand this charge sheet system now includes 20 charges for drone offenses. Are you able to share with our viewers what kind of charges could these be?
Yeah, so I don't have the charge sheet in front of me. You've kind of caught me while I'm traveling. But I mean, effectively, if you go to the CAA regulation part 101, there are a number of regulations that apply to the flying of drones. So, for example, in order to operate legally for commercial operations, the person needs to have a valid pilot license. The aircraft needs to be airworthy with a valid RLA, which is an airworthiness certificate, and the company needs to have a valid ROC, which is an RPAS operating certificate. So very much like the airline industry, you have to have a qualified pilot, a authorized aircraft, and a company that is correctly constituted to conduct the operations. So the charge codes effectively talk to each of these components. So theoretically, if you have a valid pilot license, but you don't have a registered aircraft, or you don't have a registered authorized company, there's a charge for each of those components. So it's been broken down to make it relatively easy to understand. Not only is it around the pilot or the person that's conducting the operation, it talks to the people that have paid for the operation. So the person or the entity that contracted the service, it's in their interest now to make sure that they contract authorized companies to do the work. And we've seen this over the last couple of years, where obviously price is a big issue, and obviously illegal operations are cheaper than licensed operations, and there's been this sort of confusion in the middle. So I think each of the components are now designed to make it easy to understand. It allows the South African Police Services to be able to lay a proper charge, and for this to be successfully prosecuted. Whereas previously,
so this could help the police to successfully arrest somebody and then prosecution. You said not a complete surprise that this has happened now. Do you, as the association, welcome this development?
Yeah, so as an association, we worked with SAPS. Our team, our F2O team, has been actively working with us. We had to submit the documentation to SAPS to allow them to better understand the problem, to better understand what the solution would be. So this is something we've been actively involved with. So we're not a surprise. We are.
Okay, you've been part of the process. That's good to hear. Who's going to be accountable to ensure that people understand these drone laws? I mean, is there responsibility on yourself as an association? Is there responsibility on the consumer who's buying a drone that's unlicensed? Is there accountability on the company that's using drones without getting the licenses? And what about retailers?
Well, absolutely. So I think it starts where you procure the drone. And in Part 101 regulations, it's mandatory that any retailer or anybody that sells drones is obligated to advise the purchaser of those drones as to what the regulations are. So theoretically, every single sales activity should be accompanied by a pamphlet or at least advice to say, by the way, these drones are regulated in terms of Civil Aviation Regulation Part 101. And I had a meeting with the CA this morning, and we were discussing the training at school level to really up, tempo the information around this to allow young people to understand these things and to see where the career opportunities are. And just about an hour ago, we received an email for one of the big suppliers of drones to advise us that these regulations are in place. So really, this press release has had a positive result.
Okay, finally, before I let you go, you said you're traveling a little bit earlier. Sean, let's just put this in simple terms. I just want to make sure that as we conclude, we cover our bases. If you fly a drone as a hobby, it's okay. That's legal. That's not going to be penalized by this Part 101 regulations under this new charge sheet system of the South African Police. But if you're going to be using drones for commercial benefit, you need to register and get licensed properly.
Yes. So if you operate a drone as a hobbyist, Part 101 regulates how that's to be done. So only daytime operations, only operations on land with landowner permission, and there's a variety of other conditions. So no night flying, no long distance flying, no flying in controlled airspace, etc. So Part 101 does regulate that, but in particular, this is aimed at commercial use. So if you are flying in something as simple as wedding photography, right up to crop spraying and security operations, these are highly regulated.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. That's Sean Wright. He's the president of the Commercial Unmanned Aircraft Association. In case you're just joining us now, there's a new law in town that is going to be regulating the use, the ownership and operation of drones. So check out Part 101 of the Civil Aviation Authority's laws. And the police now have developed a charge sheet. So you could be arrested, prosecuted and fined up to 42,000 Rand if you found guilty, or you could end up in jail.